So it's a really, really genius, amazing tactic. And, when you see it happen, you think it's almost like, old school computer game where there's been a glitch.
The quadruple may be done and dusted for Liverpool after Sunday's FA Cup defeat at Championship strugglers Plymouth, but the treble is still on. They won the Champions League group stage. You're in the Carabao Cup final against Newcastle and they're 6 points clear at the top of the Premier League. And that gap over second place Arsenal could go to 9 points with a win at bitter rivals Everton on Wednesday. I'm Will Pugh, and joining me, as always, in the Tactics Exposed studio is Sun Sports tactical guru Dean Scoggins. Dino, huge game for Liverpool. It's that game in hand, the Merseyside derby against a reformed Everton under David Moyes on Wednesday. And you have got 5 things that Reds fans and football fans in general should be keeping an eye out during that game.
Yeah, big props to Liverpool. This is not just about having good players. This is about having a big tactical plan as well. And number one, the main one that we've noticed, we've been sitting on this for a while and now we're going to reveal it, is how they're breaking the offside trap. The offside trap is broken. Secondly, they take it in turns in midfield, so they're not just busting a gut, Jurgen Klopp style. Number 3, and the pun lovers will love this one. So Class, the Dutchy on the left-hand side. We'll look at Cody Gakpo and his amazing tactical awareness. And no tracking back, no problem. How they've got better and more out of Mo Salah is absolutely unbelievable. And number 5, of course, we can't go through it. Maybe Salah's the best player in the Premier League, but not far behind him this year is Ryan Gravenberch.
There we go, Dino. Look, I think we've had quite a lot of love in the comments recently. Thanks, by the way, for all of the puns. This is Sun Sport, after all. What on earth do people expect?
We've been waiting to unleash that one.
Exactly. Look, before we get into the detail, Dino, it's a huge game on Wednesday. It's the game in hand, like we said. They go 9 points clear of Arsenal and then level on games if they win. But going to Merseyside, the other side of Merseyside, the other side of Stanley Park, David Moyes and Everton will be absolutely desperate to do what they can to keep this title race open, not just for their own season, but to scupper their local rivals. Not an easy game.
No, and the last Merseyside derby at Goodison Park. So it will be a very special occasion and probably an insight there into why Arne Slot picks the team that he did at Plymouth, which cost them it. As you know, they've got a really big couple of weeks. And the priority list was in that order. Perhaps if they'd gone out to Spurs last week in the Carabao Cup, then maybe it would have been a different decision. But look, the treble's still on. The quad's gone. The treble's still on, and it's probably a real insight into where Arne Slot is with the squad. But they've been fantastic so far, and to be honest, I expect them to go there and win.
Yeah, 21-year-old Harvey Elliott saying he felt old looking at Liverpool's bench on the weekend.
Look, he felt old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right, Dino, this one, like you say, you've been sitting on this for a long time. Liverpool's offside-buster. You've been chomping at the bit to do this one. We've finally unleashed you on Tactics Exposed. And, to be honest, I'm excited. Talk to me.
Yeah, this is really interesting. And I wanted a hat tip to another member of Sun Sport, Phil Cadden, who's a big fan of the show.
Yeah, of course he is.
But
he's paid to be a big fan of the show.
Absolutely, that is true. But yeah, he pointed out this, or he spotted this in one game, which I hadn't spotted, and it was before Christmas, and I've been monitoring it since then. And basically what happens is, let's talk about Liverpool's setup just for a second, for those of you who haven't watched Liverpool this season, if you've been living in a dark room. But it's a slight tweak on what Jurgen Klopp was doing last year. It's still a kind of 4-3-3, but it develops from a 4-2-3-1 into almost a 4-1-5 because of Gravenberch sitting in there and the midfielders having the ability to roam.
Just quickly, Dino, before you go on, if you haven't watched the episode we did around the Liverpool-Manchester United game at Old Trafford earlier in the season, Dino does an excellent job at describing just how Liverpool set up and how effective that is. Carry on, sir.
Thank you. And also what we talk about a lot on Tactics Exposed is how teams move formations in defence and attack, OK? So Liverpool, very similar to a lot of teams in the division, end up in like a 3-2-5 shape in attack, OK? Be that a fullback going in or a midfielder dropping and the fullback's going on. So that's fairly simple. The bit that's the genius is that they're using runners off the ball to bust an offside trap.
Yep.
And these runners don't want the ball, and these runs look wild, okay? So it's either Trent Alexander-Arnold one side, it could be Szoboszlai on the inside right. It's very, very often Andy Robertson, and I think it's when he's nearest to Arne Slot at Anfield, nearest the dugout, and he gets shouted to go, or Virgil van Dijk goes. And it's an absolute lung-busting sprint of about 40 yards from inside his own half behind the opposition defence.
Yep.
And he doesn't want the ball. So why is he doing it?
Yep.
He's doing it to force the back line back and then make what is normally a perfectly straight back four line all jagged,
Yep.
which means Liverpool players, the attacking players who want the ball, aren't offside. And it sounds pretty simple when you put it like that, but teams are not working it out. And we'll show some grabs, we'll show some examples from 3 or 4 different games in the year where you end up with a left back who is deeper than the rest of the back four, or you end up with a centre back who's tracking a full back running forward, which then all of the other players who are following their centre-back in the back four, because they're supposed to, then drop deeper. And then there's 2 things. One, you're playing Mo Salah and Diaz onside. And secondly, you're creating this gap between midfield and defence.
So there's more room for the
10s to operate. So it's a really, really genius, amazing tactic. And, when you see it happen, you think it's almost like, old school computer game where there's been a glitch and one of the players is just running up the field and just
going,
legging
what are you doing there?
Where's he going? Or your mate on a Sunday morning who gets delusions of grandeur and goes, diving
You're
up the
a right
field.
back, mate. Stay there.
But honestly, it's a plan. And, they've done it with Conor Bradley when Trent Alexander-Arnold has been injured. Robertson does it absolutely fantastically well. I mean, it helps having, Virgil van Dijk right next to you and having security.
You can afford
doing that. And also, what it means is that because Gravenberch plays in that pivot position now, that means that if it doesn't quite go right and the ball is given away, then Gravenberch will come over. But the sole plan for it, they scored a really good goal against Manchester United at Anfield, where it was exactly the same thing, and it was Robertson again who actually got into the left striker position, and all it took was 2 steps from the centre-back to be out of position. And then it was Gakpo who went in on the left and Gakpo was onside. And in a VAR world, this is changing the game for Liverpool. And we'll show the table of offsides. And Liverpool, when you consider that they are up there for goals scored, obviously, they're top of the league. They're up there for passes in the opposition third, obviously, because they're right at the top of the league. I think it's only Bournemouth who have made more forward passes in the attacking third than Liverpool. Obviously, they've scored loads. Obviously, they've got Mo Salah, Darwin Núñez, Diaz running in behind. They should have loads of offside, but they don't. They're like 3rd or 4th bottom in the league, and they are beating the offside trap.
See, there's a few things in that, Dino. I find that really, really interesting. But first of all, it feels like it's really important for it to be one of the fullbacks because they will be a player for whom the defenders haven't prepped for in the week. So it's nothing more, is it really, than a confusion tactic?
It is, yeah.
And even if... so first of all, it's like you'll have defenders going, what the hell's Robertson doing here? I'm a centre-back, I shouldn't be marking him. And also, you have that, he does that lung-busting run, so Robertson, for example, goes well beyond the defender, and even if the defender doesn't fully commit and go back with him, you only need him to drop that 5 yards as just...
Less than that even, 2. 2 yards, 2 steps, and he's playing everybody on. And because the wingers know that that's the case, so we'll come on to Gakpo and Diaz in a minute, because they know that's the case on the left, and Salah knows that's the case on the right, he's not actually looking at a straight line. He's looking at one bloke playing him on the side. And it's fascinating to see. And also, look, I'm sure I'm not the first person to notice it. I'm sure the analysts of oppositions have spotted it.
And Liverpool fans.
And Liverpool fans, I would have thought, But, but the thing is that how do you stop it? How can you be brave enough as a back four to allow someone just to run through? Because let's just say they do that and then the ball over the top does go to that player, you're not quite tracking that runner, are you? He's not offside when the ball's played.
Well, sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes they overrun.
Surely you just have to, once you're aware of it, it's yet another job for the fullback to do and discipline for them to be aware of while they're trying to invert and overlap and underlap and whatever else they do these days. But I guess the answer is, listen, they're doing this thing, so it's totally on you, the responsibility's on you. If you see Robertson hurtling at you from deep, the right midfielder should be tracking as well and helping you. And also, you've got to be disciplined enough to look across your defensive line and go, no, Virgil's not going, neither is like Trent the other side. I'm sticking here, and if whoever it might be, Kulichevsky or whoever Everton will be playing on the right wing, if he gets in behind, I've just got to have faith that he's going to be offside, or if I see the ball going, exactly that.
To catch him, And what's interesting as well about it is that it's because all the teams now have that attacking shape that I mentioned, and Liverpool want that attacking shape, but they found another little outlet to be disruptive. Amazing stuff.
Yeah, I love that one, Dino. Yet another reason Liverpool are impossible almost to stop going forward. Look, number 2, take it in turns in midfield. Now, one of the previous Liverpool episodes we've done, that Man United one, was one of the most enjoyable and informative episodes we've done from my point of view anyway. Really interesting. The first sort of breakdown we've done on tactics on how Arne Slot has sort of what he's instilled in Liverpool and how they're different to Klopp, but he's still finding huge success. The midfield is almost the most important part of that.
I think it is the most important part of it. And again, I say it time and time again, Klopp left them with great players, right? So you've got a fairly good head start there. But also,
he didn't do a Fergie.
And absolutely, it wasn't coming in with this rebuild or the Amorim situation that Man United find themselves in now. But this taking in turns in midfield is really interesting as well. And I noticed it the first time in the Tottenham game at the Tottenham Stadium, where I was in the stadium and Liverpool won in the league. Thrashed Spurs, but it was like, how on earth are there runner after runner after runner from midfield just going beyond the back four for the ball over the top all the time, and not just the offside-buster that we talked about from the fullbacks, actually wanting the ball with the ball over the top. How have they got so much energy? But if you watch it closely, they're rotating. So they're taking it in turns, whether it's Szoboszlai and McAllister. Szoboszlai is one of my favourite tactical players this season. I think he's been outstanding and he understands what Arne Slot wants from him. But basically, they look around, and maybe it's on the field where Gravenberch is saying, "I've got you, go." One of them makes this unbelievable sprint run into the space to disrupt, get close to Salah, and then the next attack, it'll be somebody else. And the next attack, it'll be somebody else. And then it's almost like, well, we'll do 1 in 3.
Yeah.
And if you're doing 1 in 3, and it's not, you get a bit of a rest, you're not completely busting the shape where two people go at once and you leave somebody exposed behind you. And it's incredible how almost they rotate. We've talked about teams rotating wingers out wide, Arsenal in particular, how they rotate positions and they know their job. And Liverpool in midfield know their job, that, right, OK, well, McAllister's not had a turn, he can go. Szoboszlai's not had a turn, he can go. So it's almost as simple as that. Like, my turn, I'll go. And that run in behind, a lot when you play one up front, because they maintain their width, if they've got Diaz up front or Núñez up front, they need support, and that might come from McAllister on an inside left position. He's played much further forward and much more left this season, McAllister, than he did under Klopp, where he was very much part of the pivot. And then Szoboszlai or Jones the other way, going from a number 10 into an inside right forward position. And, and as a defence, it's just relentless, absolutely relentless. So, maybe they take turns attacking, but you can't take turns defending. You've got to do it.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the interesting things I learned from that last episode, how whereas some teams with Arsenal who sort of shift from side to side in the midfield with that sort of semicircular, rotating as a wheel in the centre, whereas Liverpool are almost like engine pistoning vertically up the pitch, aren't they? Look, number 3, Dino. You know what? I'm in a good mood. It's Monday morning. West Ham didn't play, so it didn't ruin my weekend. So I'm going to sing "Class the Dutchy on the left-hand side."
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Excellent pun. Talk to me what it means tactically.
It does, yeah. And look, it's Cody Gakpo that we're talking about here. And when he came in last year, it was almost like, where does he play? Is he a second striker?
Yeah.
Is he an attacking midfielder? Is he a winger? And so what Arne Slot's decided...
And wherever he plays, is he better than who they've already got in those positions?
Yeah. So what Arne Slot's decided is, well, he's all three.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play him, and he's going to be... And we talk about 2 players in one, you know, and this guy's 3 players in one. And
we love the utility man phrase.
But that's because he gets what they're trying to do, OK? You've got Gravenberch doing the single pivot job in midfield. You've got McAllister, and you've got Jones or Szoboszlai running from deep, OK? So Cody Gakpo, along with Luis Diaz, and I'm in my head, I'm always confusing Núñez and Diaz. So along with Luis
it's
Diaz,
the Zs,
it's the Zs and the S's and all that. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, well, you've got that left-hand side. So what they do brilliantly, and sorry, you mentioned West Ham there, so I'm going to bring up the West Ham game where they absolutely annihilated West Ham at the London Stadium, is that when they need a more direct ball, then Cody Gakpo goes and drifts into almost a number 9 position, sort of somewhere in between the left-hand side and the 9. So he never goes over to the right of the side, and he's obviously a big boy. He's going to win more in the air than Diaz is, and that allows Diaz to drift over to the left. And then when you factor in that Andy Robertson lung-busting run to break the offside trap, it's Gakpo up against the back line. If Van Dijk decides I'm not going to pass it long, the defence has been pushed back, and Diaz has the ball into feet, and all the space out there in front of him.
And that's where he's most dangerous, isn't it? In a bit of space,
exactly.
Coming from deep,
and it's that triangle over on the left-hand side where Gakpo he knows on the field position where he's supposed to be. He knows that he's going to move and rotate between those 2 positions. And if the ball's over on the right and you're thinking there's going to be a cross, then he comes back over to the left to run at the ball to be a header at the back post, which is again incredibly dangerous for a guy who's great in the air. He's scoring these goals and getting in shooting positions on the inside left of the box. And then when they're in a defensive setup, he drops back in to become the extra midfield man, and Diaz does all the running, or Núñez does all the running up front to press the players. So it's a fantastic left-hand side rotation. And as a right back, you're probably looking at it thinking, well, I've just got to stick with him. And then you go and stick with him, and then Diaz is there, and you think, well, which way do I go? And again, this sort of slot tactic of confusion in the defence when your team knows exactly what their jobs are going to be. So just another brilliant little tactic, and 3 players in one.
If I'm honest, Dino, I've got a headache just listening to you explain all that. Imagine being a defender.
Absolutely. And imagine being at Liverpool, in the summer last year when Arne Slot, all the players came out and talked about it, and McAllister and Salah were probably the most eloquent about it, talking about the team meetings and getting that in. And credit to the players as well for taking it on board so quickly.
Exactly that. Yeah, it's easy to have the sort of the ideas and the plans are kind of the easy bit, aren't they? It's getting the players to pick them up and how quickly. Totally. Right, Dino, no tracking back, no problem. We've spoken a lot about Liverpool going forward, but every now and then they do have to defend.
Yeah, they do, but he doesn't. And so, like, and he's, look, I'm not for a second saying he's lazy.
I wouldn't make him.
No, and that's pretty much it. Like, so when, as I say,
so
last
can we
year,
double back on? I'm not for a second saying he's lazy. I feel like there was a but coming.
No, but he's been told not to get back.
Yeah.
So it's a plan. Okay. So it's not how fit he is. He seems to be getting fitter with age, and
that's
maybe. But when he takes his shirt off, it sort of makes me wince a little bit. Yeah. But how absolutely unbelievable player, obviously, right? So when Arne Slot came, it's how do I get more out of what I've got?
Yeah.
And then how do you improve on virtual perfection with Mo Salah? And basically what it is not getting back, but there's a reason for not getting back, okay? One of those reasons is I'm going to have proper fullbacks this year.
Yeah.
So Trent Alexander-Arnold is not playing as an inverted fullback most weeks. In a lot of, in some games, naturally he'll drift in there because he's a clever player as well, okay? So if he sees the opportunity, he may well go in there, right? But he's not going in there as a matter of course. And we've actually seen less defensive mistakes from Trent Alexander-Arnold this season because he's in a more natural right-back position. And of course, what that means is that the opposition fullback doesn't just have the run of that side of the field. So what Liverpool said and what Slot said is, Mo Salah, I don't want you coming back with that fullback because then in transition, Mo Salah's the most dangerous player in the Premier League.
Of course.
Because you give him the ball in that position and he's running at you, then you're on toast. And, and if so that position is hold there. And that's where I talked about before. Gakpo dropping in, Diaz dropping in, Diaz or Nunes dropping in, and then that immense midfield three that they end up with either Jones or Szoboszlai, McAllister and Gravenberch, we don't need Mo Salah to track back. We've got a hard-working number 9. We're going to leave him there. And what do you do as an opposition then? You leave 2 back. So then you're winning the numbers game. Okay, so then all of a sudden you look at Salah's numbers, again, this season, absolutely immense. Top of goals, top of assists, top of passes into the area, top of dribbles, just unreal. And it's also because he's managing the game better. And what we talked about, the difference between Klopp and Slot, we talked about this in the earlier episode, where it's not heavy metal football all the time from Slot's team. They manage the game, which means when it comes to transitions and sprints and quick attacks, they're not out of breath.
No, quite.
You know, they're ready to go. These guys aren't robots. They're human beings who need a bit of recovery time, and they're giving them that. And Salah gets his recovery time.
Ange Postecoglou, mate.
Yeah, did I give Ange a hat tip there? No, I shouldn't have done. But yeah, you know what I mean. They've
got there. Like,
where do you want Salah? You don't want him on the halfway line tracking a fullback. You want him running the other way, and that's what this allows.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. That's like the second point in this show where you spoke about how Liverpool are somehow incorporating energy conservation within this high-level tactical system. Look, Ryan Gravenberch, we spoke a lot about the midfield already, and he is in the key slot for Liverpool. You said to me previously that he didn't exactly shine under Klopp. Not that he was bad, but he didn't shine. He's an absolute A1 important cog in this Arne Slot team.
Yeah, and when he came in, we probably thought he was an 8. You know, we probably thought he was an attacking midfielder. No, position. As an attacking midfielder, yeah? Yep. Sorry, I know squad numbers confuse things now, but an attacking 8 is probably what I thought he was. I was wrong. You know, when he was at Ajax in the academy there, he played more as a deep-lying player. Obviously, huge physical presence and everything like that helps as well. He went to Bayern, didn't really have that much of an impact. Came to Liverpool for around about 30 million quid, which now looks like the biggest bargain you've ever seen. Absolutely sensational player. And he is Liverpool's Rodri. And there couldn't be a bigger compliment than that. You know, it's the way that he backs up play. And I've used that phrase a few times on Tactics Exposed. Like, it's where when the ball goes from left to right, the holding player goes along with the play. And he's almost not concerned about who he's picking up or who he's marking, because if they're in his zone, he's going to win it.
Yeah.
And so he comes along, backs up play. The Man United goal that I mentioned earlier, 2 goals at the London Stadium, the Tottenham game, which I mentioned earlier, the ball gets turned over, he wins it, and it's not just the fact he wins it, his pass is straight back at you. Yeah. So it's that relentlessness of it. You're under the cosh against Liverpool. You think you've made a tackle to go the other way. He nicks it, gives it back. Top of interceptions, reading the game. It comes back at you time and time and time again. And you think, oh, Salah's beaten us, Gakpo's beaten us, Diaz is beating us. What's happening is Gravenberch is going, go on, boys, you beat them. I'll just keep feeding that beast. And then it goes forward. And for me, obviously Salah's top of all the numbers, but outside of that, for me, he's been the best player in the Premier League this year. And if it wasn't for, Rodri, if Liverpool go on and win the Champions League and the Premier League, I don't think he'll get the Rodri Ballon d'Or like happened last year. They do it a couple of years in a row, he might, because it'll be Salah who wins it this year. But yeah, he's not just great on the floor when he's not got the ball. He's great at getting out of a tight position. And maybe that's where the attacking midfielder side of him comes in as well, where he can take the ball on his back foot and spin away from players and spring another attack. I love watching him.